Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hope everything's going well out there in the world. It's raining here in northern Michigan, northern Wisconsin, which is better than snowing, I suppose. Uh, so, welcome to our live stream. If you're new to the group, welcome. What took you so long to find us? We are the nation's oldest, largest, and in many ways only true grassroots group fighting only and absolutely for student loan justice. I'm going to hopefully keep it pretty brief tonight. If you have any questions or comments, if you're watching us on Facebook or Twitter, then by all means, give us a shout out. And if I can see your comments, which is not always guaranteed, I will gladly respond to them. So, where to begin? This is the busiest week, the most important week in the 17-year history of our organization. I know I said that last week, but it was true last week. And it's true this week, too. I'm not kidding you guys. We're fighting for two things. We're fighting for the return of bankruptcy protections to all student loans. And we've got a great bill, S2598, which is right on the cusp. This is why it's so important. The bill is being marked up right now in the Senate, like probably today, this week, and next week, as I've been informed by my friends in the Senate. So that's good, but much could go wrong at this point, ladies and gentlemen. What we do, what you do this week and next week could well seal the fate of this bill. It's got all the support it needs to get through committee, but getting through Congress generally is always a dicey proposition. I think probably only like 1 or 2% of all bills that are created are ever turned past into law, or even less, actually, I think. So what we do this week and next week is just absolutely and critically and vitally important. Now, remember this. We're fighting for two things. Bankruptcy. The second thing we're fighting for is loan cancellation, not $10,000, not up to $50,000. We're fighting for the cancellation of all federally owned student loans by executive order. And it was this group that started the petition back in March 2020, that got the ball rolling on this issue at all. So good for us. The most important thing, though, I got to tell you guys, hopefully you've been paying attention to this issue. And if you have, then you would hopefully see what I'm seeing. And that is that Joe Biden is not going to cancel loans meaningfully unless he is pushed. And the thing that will push him is us having the threat of bankruptcy back on our side. Nobody wants to file for bankruptcy. I get that. Nobody should even have to file for bankruptcy when we get the right returned. But having the leverage that bankruptcy provides us is what is needed to get Joe Biden off his seat and canceling loans meaningfully. I'm telling you guys, the nonsense that we're going to see as long as bankruptcy remains gone is going to be at most this up to $50,000 thing that we heard. I think Elizabeth Warren did a thing earlier today about that. It's nonsense, guys. It's fake. I hate to talk bad about Elizabeth Warren, but it's fake. It just is. Up to $50,000 could mean anything. And if the Department of Education and its contractors have their way, and they will, it will mean almost nothing for almost everyone. We've got to get the threat of bankruptcy back. So we've got to fight for S2598. So if student loans are important to you, the first thing you would do is go to our website, which hopefully you can see there, and do at least a month worth of the daily actions there. It's very, very important. We've got over 1 million people in our group now, I'm happy to say, 1.1 million on our petition almost, and a couple 100,000 across our other platforms. But guys, it's a huge muscle to flex. We could solve this problem. Just this group alone could get this problem done if everybody pitched in. But if nobody pitches in, then we may as well have no one in our group. So we are only as strong as you make us. And this battle will only be won in direct proportion to how many people are fighting with us. Doing our daily actions is the first and best thing that anybody can do. We cannot depend on the talking heads on TV, the politicians, any of the other, quite frankly, nonsense groups out there that, anyways, we can't count on the people in Washington, D.C. to solve this problem for us. We cannot do it. It's not going to happen. It's never happened. In the 17 years that we've been doing this, it has never worked out for us. When we sit back and wait, watch, and worry, never, ever has that ever worked. So what makes you think it's going to work now? It's not going to work. Got to help us. Anyways, I'm going to do kind of an open forum here tonight. I know I haven't been great about answering questions in the past, but I'm going to try and get to all of your questions and comments if I can possibly see them. So by all means, throw them out. Hey, Doug Grustfin is with us here tonight. There you are. Let's see what we got going on Twitter. So hopefully I can definitely see the comments on Twitter. On Facebook. Not so sure about Twitter. Anyways, I hope you've seen us in the media lately. We've had a lot of really good, some of it very tough, but good coverage. We were featured on Fox News last, what was it? Thursday or Friday or Wednesday or something like that. Actually, I think it was actually Monday on Fox News. That was strong. A couple weeks ago, we were featured on News Nation. And again, these are both very confrontational, antagonistic interviews, which we love. We love going into the lion's den, as it were, and answering all the tough questions head on. That's where this battle gets won, ladies and gentlemen. It's a very important niche that we seem to have carved out for ourselves, going into the middle of the bad guys and fighting them eyeball to eyeball. So I hope you're pleased with that. More recently, we did Coast to Coast over the weekend. We were featured this week. It's something called Dark History. It's a YouTube thing. I really didn't know much about it before they called me and asked me to help edit their script, which I did. But it's really a popular show. I had no idea. Like over 400,000 people have seen the broadcast so far. It gives a very surprisingly thorough and well-researched, I might pat myself on the back for that one a little bit, well-researched, well-vetted historical story on what led us to where we are now. Going back a long ways, going back to land grant stuff, and I think they may have even mentioned Jefferson if I remember correctly. But check it out. It's called Dark History with someone. I can't remember her name. She's really famous on the internet. If you have YouTube, you might even know about her. But anyways, check it out. Dark History on YouTube. You can see it. We're featured. Lisa Ansel and I were featured yesterday on the University of Southern California's nightly news thing. That was cool. But guys, as I said earlier, where this rubber really meets the road for us actually being able to get something done is with you. You can't, as I said, you can't sit there and watch stuff and think anything good's going to happen. You've got to take the bull by the horns. So if you've never done any of our daily actions, I really wish you would start today and do a month worth. First of all, I would hope that you would follow us on Twitter, and you can see our little Twitter thing there, Student Loan Just number 1. Follow us on Twitter and dial into our daily actions. You go to our website, studentloanjustice.org. You can, it's mostly Twitter stuff, our daily actions are. You can do a month worth of daily actions in probably around 15 minutes. It's like literally Twitter stuff. There's some phone call stuff and a few email things as well, but by and large, it's Twitter. I hate Twitter. I know you hate Twitter. A lot of people hate Twitter, but Twitter's pretty useful. I hate to say it, but it's true. We also did a nice interview this week with Tracy Carson. Not even sure where Tracy hails from, but this is another YouTube podcast. It's called Tracy Takes On, TRACEY, not Tracy CY, Tracy CEY. So hopefully Google that. Hopefully you can find it. Not to be confused with Tracy Ullman, by the way. There's another show by that title. But these are all very, very strong interviews for us, guys. It's really important that we get the word out. I would love to go on Fox News every single day, or Newsmax, or One America News, or Real America Voice, or any of the conservative shows that you hear on the radio or see on TV. We need to go into conservative bastions and spread the truth, because there is so much terrible untruth going on right now. So much propaganda being just thrown out into the media, like by the shovelful. The BS is getting thick, and there's two main arguments that our opposition is using against us right now. Maybe I'll go over those really quickly. The first argument is that canceling student loans will benefit the wealthy. The second one is that canceling student loans will cause inflation or exacerbate inflation. Both of those are absolute nonsense. I'm going to let that ring. So, to the first point, first of all, Larry Summers, all these just shills for the lending industry, they are trying very hard. Adam Mooney from the Brookings Institute, they're trying very hard to convince us that canceling student loans is going to benefit wealthy people. That's completely and utterly asinine and false. The large majority of student loans are owned by people in the bottom 80% earnings bracket. Like nearly 100% of everyone with student loans had to prove that they were financially needy as a precondition for even getting federal student loans in the first place. 40% of student loan borrowers never graduated. And I saw some really interesting statistics earlier that I hate George Will. He wrote a piece today, and he was arguing both against student loan cancellation and against the whole thing about going to college in the first place. So he may have a point on that second point. But on one hand, he was arguing against loan cancellation, saying all the bullshit that I said earlier, how it benefits the wealthy. It's completely fake. Oh, by the way, let me get this out first. PPP loans. The vast majority of those loans were taken out by the top 20% of income borrowers, top 20% of income people. Compare that with student loans, where the top 20% earners own only 30%. So, you want to talk about regressive? Let's talk about PPP loans. Also, PPP loans added to the national debt and required money to be drawn from the Treasury. Canceling student loan debt, federal student loan debt, adds nothing to the national debt, requires not even a nickel from the Treasury. So there's that. So George Will, on one hand, he's saying, don't cancel loans because it'll benefit the wealthy. That's obviously wrong. And we're going to be seeing a lot more of that, ladies and gentlemen. Our opposition in the swamp are just overloading the zeitgeist with that line. And it makes blood shoot out of my eyes. But just know what I just said. Rewind this video if you have to see it again. Go to our studentloanjustice.medium.com site, little storage meme stash, or article stash, I should say. And you can find a very well-written, in my humble opinion, article, which explains everything I just said in great detail. But on the other hand, this guy, George Will, hopefully some of you have heard of him. He's a pillar of conservatism, supposedly. He does say a few things that I was glad to see. He was saying, forget about the myth that college graduates earn $1 million more over their lifetime. That's nonsense. And he whipped out some pretty interesting statistics that I had not seen before that show pretty clearly that college graduates actually do not make more money than those who didn't go to college. In fact, an increasing number of graduate school graduates are earning less than their high school graduate peers, I guess you'd say, 10 years after graduation. And there's a couple other statistics as well that are useful to us. So I was glad to see that at least. But that seems to be what our opposition is doing. They're trying to have it both ways. They're picking and choosing stuff, and Anyways, they're flailing. They are absolutely flailing. And here's evidence of that. Now they're using the new buzzword of the week or the month, inflation. Now they're saying that canceling student loans will cause inflation. And again, this is just the most weak ass, pardon my French, argument that you can even imagine. The inflation that we're seeing in this country right now is not demand pushed, where there's a whole bunch of people with a fistful of dollars chasing around a limited supply of goods. No. The inflation we're seeing right now is supply pulled. So we've got a fertilizer shortage in Russia. We've got gas crisis from, again, Russia and other places. We've got supply chain problems in, I think, the South China Sea and stuff. That is what is causing the inflation that we're seeing right now today, folks. Canceling student loans and freeing up people's income so that they can do things like, I don't know, pay rent and eat and like put gas in their cars. That's not going to exacerbate inflation. It is not. And in the long term, it will be nothing but good for the economy, because probably after this period of inflation is finally abated, normal people will be able to buy homes and will be able to enter the, consumer market for stuff. But that's not going to happen first. That is not the first thing that's going to happen. This inflation will probably eat up every nickel that these people were paying on their student loans before this inflation happened. So, guys, our opposition has nothing. They are so weak, and they know they're weak. They're flailing. They're jumping from this argument to that argument, and neither will work. Like, there is no good argument against us. There is not. The lending system is failed, and it's failed catastrophically. And the longer they keep this repayment thing on hold, the harder it is going to be for them to turn it back on. Before the pandemic, 64.3% of all borrowers were not paying on their loans. That's nearly two-thirds. Two-thirds of all borrowers were not making payments on their loans before the pandemic. And even if you take out the people who were in school, they were in college on a grace period, it's still 57% not paying before the pandemic. The default rate for 2004 students is 40%, which is double the default rate of subprime home mortgages. And the class of 2004 was borrowing less than a third of what's being borrowed today. So even before this pandemic, ladies and gentlemen, we were looking at a default rate for federal student loans of, 65, 70, 75%, maybe even higher. That's a failed lending system. It's dead. It's done. It's toast. It's finished. And there's nothing that anybody in Washington, D.C. or Manhattan or Wall Street or anywhere else, there's nothing that they can do or say to change that fact. Most people were not paying before the pandemic. Almost nobody is paying now. I don't care when they turn this lending system back on. Very few people are ever going to resume paying on their student loans. And that's just the truth. And nobody seems to want to acknowledge that in the media. But hey, guys, we know what's going on. And if you are among the probably 80% of people who are not going to resume paying on your loans, you should be fighting with us for bankruptcy extra hard, because if and when they do turn these loans back on, you definitely want to have at least the leverage, the protection of the threat of bankruptcy back on your side. You probably do not want to be thrown to the wolves with your ass hanging out, vulnerable and into the jaws of the wolves. We got to have the threat of bankruptcy returned, which again is why S2598 is so freaking important, ladies and gentlemen. We've got to get this bill passed. We've got to. This week, next week, could and will probably make all the difference. This group is more important than you might think. I know I don't really doesn't seem like we're a huge thing, but we actually are, guys. But for this group, we would not have bankruptcy legislation to fight for. And that is the key to everything. But for this group, I really don't think we'd be talking about canceling student loans by executive order, but for this group. So what you do matters. It's the people in this group and the work that we've done, certainly over the past 2 years, but really over the past 17 years, I'm sad to say, are important and critical for these two things. For bankruptcy and loan cancellation, this is the tip of the spear. This group right here, I kid you not. So take that seriously. You can't unhear that. These are your loans. This is your problem. We are the pioneers, like it or not. And we've got to pull a little more than our weight. We've got to fight a little bit above our weight. And that's just kind of the way it is. I wish it wasn't, but it is. Hey, Leslie Fishman's here with us tonight. Good evening, Leslie. Doug Grostefan says, it is dead, and we just need to continue to do the actions until the lending system dies a good or bad death. Right, Doug. I'm glad that you're picking up on, this lending system is dead. It's a dead man walking. Call it a zombie, call it whatever you want. It will not survive. The pandemic was the nail in the coffin. But this could have a good death. It could have a bad death. The good death is what we're fighting for. Bankruptcy first, the threat of bankruptcy leading to very widespread, very meaningful, maybe even total loan cancellation. Quite frankly, if I was in Washington, D.C., if I was president, and as soon as they returned bankruptcy, I'd be like, okay, guys, game's over. Let's take this thing out back and shoot it. Let's take this thing to the dump and dump it. Let's throw it on the scrap heap of failed U.S. policy experiments. That's the good death. But we could see a very bad death, a years-long, very painful, very excruciating unwinding, where these sort of army of collection goons come and descend on us like locusts, and we have to fight them off, and it gets very ugly and very bitter and very nasty and very cruel. And people probably will die, believe it or not. There could very well, in fact, I would almost bet there would be social and civil unrest, and maybe even a few people going postal. And I'm laughing, but it's not funny. We don't want that bad death, guys. We do not want that bad death. We want the good death. So if ever you were going to fight for your own self, this is your battle. These are your loans. If ever you were going to fight, you would at least jump onto our thing and do a month worth of our daily actions, and join your state chapter group too. There's a million things that you can be doing. Hey, Pepper Bryant's with us. She says, I'm at the point. Come and get me. Give me my day in court one way or another. Fair bankruptcy protection is our constitutional right. Well, here, Pepper. The founding fathers, who they themselves were being savaged under debt to British banks, merchants, ship owners, and others. They felt so strongly about having bankruptcy rights. They called for uniform bankruptcy laws in the Constitution. Not the Bill of Rights, the body of the Constitution itself. And they called for it ahead of the power to declare war, ahead of the power to raise an army, ahead of the power to build a navy and coin currency. Some pretty important things for a country. That's how important the founding fathers knew that having bankruptcy rights were to having a healthy, thriving, free people. So we got this, guys. The founders are on our side. Hey, Joanna Kearns also says something about Miriam. I have no idea what that means, Joanna. But Joanna did paste a link to our film, which is in the making. Film series, actually, scaredtodebtmovie.com. We've got the first 2 episodes done. I'm still waiting for us to get it out there for the masses to enjoy. Hopefully that will happen sooner than later. Making a film can be a very tough thing, but check it out, scaredtodebtmovie.com, and see what you can do to help. Very strong first episode, by the way, so I can't wait for it to come out. Frankly, I wish it would have come out 4 to 5 months ago. It would have been even better, but we have a bunch more comments. Let me see if I can get through to them, guys. Give me a minute here. So tonight there's a couple of things today. A couple of things were going on. Elizabeth, over 1 million people in our group now. I'm happy to say Elizabeth Warren was doing a thing. Bernie Sanders is doing a thing tonight at 8:30. We've worked very closely with Bernie Sanders. We've also worked very closely with Elizabeth Warren. We're not big Elizabeth Warren fans at the moment, guys. And first of all, let me say we're a nonpartisan group fiercely. We pretty much hate both parties. But having said that, in years and decades past, we have tended to work better with the Democrats than the Republicans. That is changing, by the way. That is changing. We're starting to make some very serious inroads with some Republican politicians out there. And it could not have come at a better time. So we don't hate Elizabeth Warren. In fact, Elizabeth Warren's very first splash in the national spotlight was our first splash in the national spotlight. It was a top story on 60 Minutes back in May 2006. Then bankruptcy professor Elizabeth Warren nailed it on that very seminal episode. Top story on 60 Minutes. But I have to tell you guys, we point the finger where it needs to point. We tell the truth. We don't care about party. We don't care about politicians. We don't care about anything but the truth. I got to tell you that Elizabeth Warren's up to $50,000 loan cancellation plan is fake. It's a gimmick. Up to $50,000 could mean anything. And as long as bankruptcy remains gone from these loans, it will mean almost nothing for almost everyone. It's probably one of the more important things I'll say tonight. We also haven't heard Elizabeth Warren say almost anything about bankruptcy in the past 6 months or even a year. That concerns me greatly, because the number one trick that keeps me up at night, the trick that's been played on us many times in the past by politicians in Washington, D.C., is foisting a fake loan cancellation on us and keeping bankruptcy gone. They did this with ICR. They did this with public service loan forgiveness and IBR. They did this with pay as you earn. They did it with revised pay as you earn. We're not stupid, guys. We're not going to fall for that trick any longer. So I didn't see the Elizabeth Warren thing today. It kind of looked to me like just an establishment setup thing designed only to get John King elected governor of Maryland. And it's just a DNC thing. Super not thrilled about it. But there's another Bernie Sanders thing coming up at 8:30 tonight. Maybe that'll be better. I don't know. But we can't count on people in Washington, D.C., guys. I'm telling you. If you think you can sit back and wait and watch and worry and be distracted and do nothing, that's exactly what our opposition wants you to do. They want you to wait, watch, worry, do nothing, maybe read Forbes magazine. They love that because those swamp creatures over there love nothing more than discouraging and demoralizing you and making you think there's no hope. Don't do that. Help us fight. It feels good to fight. It feels cathartic to fight. Ask Leslie, ask Patsy, ask Ed. Ed will be the first guy to tell you. It feels good to be fighting this fight. So Robert Coletti, how are you, Robert? Robert agrees. Robert agrees. Ed McKinley, our fearless co-leader, says Warren's office has failed to reply to our inquiries. You know, we used to talk to the Warrens. Ed, I couldn't have said it better. And I'm just going to maybe air a little bit of inside dirty laundry here. You know, we've been talking to the Elizabeth Warren people for years now. Sometimes even on a bi-monthly basis, kind of on speed dial type of thing. But over the past year and a half, maybe, something has gone on with Elizabeth Warren's office. You know, we see her doing these joint events with, quite frankly, AstroTurf corrupted groups. I won't mention any names, student debt crisis. And it's getting just extremely difficult to have meaningful interchange with her staff anymore. We'll get an email from somebody one week saying, "Yep, I'm the student loan person. Nice to meet you. What are we doing?" And then that person disappears a month later, and nobody will say where they went. And you know, if I didn't know any better, I'd say they were screwing us around. And I don't know, guys. But we're losing a lot of confidence in Elizabeth Warren in recent months. Quite frankly, I'd say since the inauguration, Elizabeth Warren has been doing some very suspicious things. Like, she barely even mentions bankruptcy, if at all. She's got a new chief of staff, Ed says, right? Elizabeth Warren has got to get right. If she thinks that they can fool us again with another fake loan cancellation masquerading as something good when it's just a ploy to keep bankruptcy gone from the loans, it's not going to work. And the Democrats are playing with fire. There was 50 million people who expected Joe Biden to cancel student loans, certainly, but a good significant chunk of them paid very close attention to his pledge to return bankruptcy protections to student loans, which is the most important thing, as I said before. I'm guessing probably 10 or 15 million people went out of their way to vote for Joe Biden on the expectation he was going to cancel loans and return bankruptcy. And he's done neither of those things. And if Elizabeth Warren thinks that somehow the Democrats can say, oh, but look, we tried, right? We tried. Look, here's $10,000. Yeah. Here's up to $50,000. Yeah. No, we're not. People are not going to be impressed with that. We're not stupid. And the Democrats are going to get their asses kicked in November if they don't put some beef on the plate and do something real. The Democrats have control over the House and the Senate and the presidency. It's a historically rare phenomenon. Like the last time this happened was 2008. No, 2006, 7, and 8. So the session that began January 2007, or actually January 1st, 2007 through the end of 2008. Is that right? Yeah. The Democrats have one shot to use this rare control they have in the House and the Senate. They screwed us the last time they had this mantle of power way back in the first 2 years of Barack Obama's presidency. So actually 2008 through 2010. They screwed us. They didn't even return bankruptcy. In fact, they didn't even return bankruptcy to private student loans. They screwed us. And what happened in 2010? They got their asses beat. Now the stakes are far, 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 far higher on the student loan issue. We are now the largest untethered voting bloc in modern U.S. history, maybe even all U.S. history. I think that would probably be true also. If they think they can fake it again, they are going to be wrecked in November. I mean, wrecked. Quite frankly, at this point, so many people are pissed about how Joe Biden has just blatantly betrayed us. It's going to take a lot for the Democrats to have even a chance of holding on to power in November. Like, quite frankly, I think Joe Biden needs to cancel all federally owned student loans by executive order, which he can do with nothing more than the stroke of his signature, stroke of his pen. He can cancel all federally owned student loans. He can return bankruptcy to all federal student loans. Congress can and must return bankruptcy to certainly federal loans, which looks likely. Private loans does not look likely, unfortunately. If you have private loans, I urge you strongly to fight for HR 4907 because I don't see any juice out there for private student loans right now. I'm just going to be honest with you. We've got to get S2598 passed. But at this late date, people are so pissed at the Democrats. Truly, I think Biden canceling the loans completely is really the minimum they need to do if they want to have any chance in November of retaining power. And if you're a blue no matter who guy, if you're dying, or I know there's out there that are like, man, you guys, you student loan people, you're wrecking everything. How could you do that? How could you betray your party? And how could you say you're not going to vote for Joe Biden if he doesn't cancel loans and this and that? I say screw those people. We're not going to be blackmailed. We're not going to be bullied, muscled into supporting a party that doesn't fight for us, a party that tricks us like Joe Biden clearly did, and which it looks like Elizabeth Warren is all set to do. We're not playing that. We're a nonpartisan group. We hate the Republicans, but we're not super thrilled about the Democrats either. And no matter what this group does or says, no matter what the dyed-in-the-wool, blue no matter who Democrats say, no matter what, the fact of the matter is people aren't stupid, and the Democrats do not have a prayer in November unless Joe Biden does something extremely big on student loans. Quite frankly, I suspect canceling all federally owned student loans by executive order, which he can do without adding one penny to the national debt or taking one dime from the Treasury, by the way. That's what he needs to do. And he can hear me now and choose not to do that. And I'll have to say, I told you so on November 9th. But I don't want to be the guy sitting there wagging my finger saying, I told you so. I'd rather get this fucking, pardon my French, but I'd rather get this effing problem solved. I want these loans gone. I want them gone. I want to end this group. I want to take this banner behind me and throw it in the garbage can, get on with my life. I hope you are the same. So don't let yourself be pushed around by Democrats, especially those cocktail liberal, those limousine liberal Democrats. They make me sick, frankly. Point of personal privilege there. Yes, they need us, Robert. You're exactly right. We're not being chumps. We're not going to be rolled over by the Democrats or the Republicans for that matter. We fight this battle for the people only. We have no love for any politicians. We trust politicians no further than we can bowl them. And that is not very far. And I'm sad to be talking sideways about Elizabeth Warren, but that's far more her fault than it is ours. We have been fighting the very same battle consistently for 17 years. Elizabeth Warren is the one who all of a sudden gets into office and starts pulling her punches. And quite frankly, she'd be ashamed of herself. I could even talk a little bit of smack about Bernie Sanders. I hate to say it. But anyways, I'm not going to do that. Doug Grossman says, well, the Dems will be done. Just the over 50 voters with student loan debt could probably put them out. Yeah, we easily could, Doug. I am over 50 now, by the way. People over 50 with student loans now outnumber people under 25 with student loan debt. I kid you not. And on average, they owe 300% more than the under 25 crowd, despite having borrowed way less many years ago. That's how broken and just perverted this lending system is. This lending system is done, guys. It's done. It's finished. In my humble opinion, nobody should ever pay another dime back on their federal student loans. It is a beast. It is a dangerous, nationally threatening beast, and it should not be fed. Leslie Fishman says, no love. Hey, I love whoever loves us, Leslie. And those people seem to be few and far between. So I know I've been talking smack about all kinds of politicians lately. Let me just throw a little bit more smack down and make it fair and balanced. Mitch McConnell, that guy is just disgusting. He's from Kentucky. He went on the Sunday shows on Sunday saying, oh, canceling student loans will benefit the wealthy or whatever the hell he said. I didn't even listen that closely. Pardon my French. Let me tell you about Kentucky, Mitch McConnell. The people of Kentucky are, I think, the fifth worst hurt population in the country on student loan debt. If you look at average student loan debt per borrower versus average earnings for all the states, Kentucky is at nearly the bottom of that list. And here we have Mitch McConnell saying, oh, no, don't cancel loans. That's not fair. Give me a break. There's nothing conservative about Mitch McConnell fighting for the colleges, fighting for the worst big government monstrosity in the history of our country. Nothing conservative about that. And I can only hope that the good people of Kentucky, whatever their political stripes are seeing this bullshit, pardon my French, for what it is. And here's one thing I've noticed, the whole conservative liberal thing. Conservatives tend to be a lot quieter about their own student loan debt than people on the left or whatever you want to call it. That's not good, because when you're quiet, nothing good happens. So to all the and I know we've got a ton of conservatives. One of the more important statistics I'll throw out tonight of student loan borrowers in the country, my best estimate is that over half of them are either Republican or independent. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. If you look at the Gallup polling data going back to 2014, if you look at more recent Pew Research data, which shows clearly that the nation as a whole has trended a few clicks to the right, it is true to say that most student loan borrowers almost certainly tend to be either Republican or independent. So all the conservatives out there, we need you fighting for us, particularly in the worst states in the country, like Kentucky, like Tom Cotton's Arkansas, like Virginia Fox's North Carolina, like Ted Cruz's Texas, like Marco Rubio, Rick Scott, Ron DeSantis's Florida, like Missouri, like Alabama, like Tennessee, like Michigan, like did I say the Carolinas, North Carolina, like Georgia? Georgia is the worst. Brian Kemp. We need to be reaching out to governors and Republican senators in all of those states. That is where this battle is won. If you hate Republicans, well, that's all the more reason to push them as hard as you possibly can. You don't have to be nice. Like when I send stuff to most Republican senators or governors, I say something like, Senator, Governor, how could you let your state be conquered and enslaved by this big government, college enriching federal student loan debt? Should we take $141 billion from your people, Governor Greg Abbott of Texas, and send $141 billion out of Texas to Washington, D.C.? How is that MAGA? It's not. It's not conservative. Shame on you. That's typically the kind of thing that I say when I talk to Republicans. So, and again, we're a nonpartisan group. We very happily sit on that fence because both parties are just terrible, in my opinion. The bipartisan divide is our worst enemy. We get shoved into the crack. The bipartisan cracks every time, all the time. Only now are we finally starting to break out and get some decent interviews at places like Fox News and News Nation, other things. Hopefully we'll be getting us some good liberal stuff. And we've been featured in Boston Globe recently and got a few other things in the hopper that are good. But anyways, guys, I hope that when you're on this group, if no matter how partisan you are one way or the other, you will kind of park that partisan nonsense at the door, because truly our political, cultural, social, ethnic, religious, whatever diversity is our greatest strength. We have super liberals from Boston, Massachusetts on this group. We have truck drivers from Texas in our group. We've got farmers in Iowa on our group. We've got, like, you name it. Our members span the political spectrum, and we love that. It's our greatest strength by far. But as such, we ask people not to talk about other issues other than student loans on our group. Because as soon as you start talking about guns and God and gays and abortion and immigration, as soon as you start talking about the other issues, it tends to get a little noisy in the group. So we can't really have that. Hey, Doug Gosfin says, well, the Dems will be done. Oh, you already said that. I already read that. Robert Coletti says, amen. Leslie says, no love. Robert Coletti says, wow, I don't know. Leslie says she loves smack. So I think I need to cut myself off there, guys. I literally could do this for another couple hours if I wanted to, but in the interest of time, I hope that you understand how important you are sitting there. If you think you can sit and wait and watch and worry and somebody else on this group is going to pull your weight for you, it's never going to happen. You're not better than us. You're not. Trust me, you are not. We have Harvard law graduates on our group, and we have people who went to Jack's truck driving school on our group. So unless you're beyond any of those extremes, you're definitely one of us. And you can't expect anybody else to do your work for you. You got to put your own work in on this blog. I see Doug doing it every day. I see Joanna doing it every day. I see most of the people that I see comments from that I recognize are doing the hard work on a daily basis. And I love that and appreciate it. Hey, one very last question from Miriam. Hey, Miriam. I think Miriam's probably a little new to the group. What are daily actions? Very good question. Go to our website, studentloanjustice.org. And you will see at the top daily actions. And nearly every day we do very simple actions like Twitter stuff. It's like retweet this, retweet that. Sometimes it's email this guy and say that or whatever. Sometimes it's call your senators, call your governors. But they're very quick, assuming you have Twitter. I tell some people, if you don't have a Twitter account, it is actually worth it to get a dedicated Twitter account for the specific purpose of doing these actions. It's that important. But do our daily actions. And if you're new to the group, see how it goes. You'll see how quick they go. You can probably do a month worth of daily actions in like 15 or 20 minutes. And you'll learn a lot, by the way, because we publish all of our research, our articles, all our daily, day-to-day stuff. It's very helpful for you to be pitching in by doing our daily actions. So Joanna says, please help this very worthwhile cause. All right, guys, I got to cut it off there. If I wasn't able to read your comment, I apologize profusely. This is it, guys. This is it. This week, next week, this is it. So please, I'm not going to say anything more. You know what to do. I will be back on Friday. Ed, our fearless co-leader, will be back tomorrow, Thursday. In the meantime, good luck, ladies and gentlemen. Keep us posted as to your accomplishments. Get us in a meeting with a Republican governor or a Republican senator. I'm happy to do that. We are here to help in any way we can. Good luck. Godspeed. Make something happen this week or next. God bless everybody.